Hello, and welcome to episode 3 of Our Own Volition, the official podcast of Volition Comics. I'm Peyton Drozd Williams. I'm going to be your host. For those of you tuning in for the first time, welcome. Whether you've heard of us before or are just now learning about us, I'm so grateful that you're choosing to spend the next little bit with us. If you're a returning listener, thank you for coming back. Can you tell that I have a new mic? It was desperately needed. Today, I want to talk to you all about diversity. It's Pride Month after all. Happy Pride to all those who are out and proud, those who are just now coming out. Without further ado, on the subject of diversity, on the subject of the LGBTQIA plus community especially, this is something that we have showcased and wanted to include and demonstrate from the very inception of Volition Comics, and in my case, as the writer of The Keepers, have very intentionally had in the design of this universe from the very start. Our mascot, in fact, our flagship superheroine, Wingspan, Poppy Bouchard, from Montreal, Canada, who could fly at the speed of sound, if not faster. She is a lesbian in a loving relationship with her fiancé, Skylar, who is bisexual. You know, there probably have been some questions out there as far as their orientation. Okay, yes, you guys knew, at least those of you following the books or the comic, either or, you guys knew, okay, you know, this is a same-sex relationship. You guys probably didn't know exactly what their orientations were, if they were bi or pan or fill in the blank. But just to be clear, canonically, as I can say as the writer, Poppy is lesbian and Skylar is bi. All right. But beyond that, though, there are a number of other LGBTQIA plus characters in our repertoire, in our lore, in our arsenal of characters, right? There is going to be a trans character in Volume 2. I can't share too much about who they are and where they come from and what their powers are and what role they play. But that's coming. That's a perspective that oftentimes is missing in modern superhero media or just media in general. That's a perspective that I do believe we need to highlight more, especially in these trying times where there are certain people out there, there are certain forces that be out there, there are certain institutions out there that want to erase the T from the LGBTQ. That can't stand. That can't stand. So that is something that we want to elevate and offer up. Hey, trans people have been around since the dawn of humankind. They are not going anywhere. You can't erase them. You can't, sweep them under the rug or invalidate their, not just their experience, not just their identity, but their existence. I take this so seriously. I really do. I have from the beginning. Look, you might not be able to understand someone's walk. You might not be able to place yourself psychologically in the shoes of someone who deals with gender dysphoria. But you gotta understand, hey, this is a human being. This is a human being. How can you honor them as a human being? How can you honor their experience? How can you love them? Because we see way too much hate out there. We do. We see way too much hate out there and animosity towards a community that, hey, I mean, look, trans people are what, 1% of the population? Even if it were more, who cares? It's not this epidemic. It's not out to destroy or groom your kids or anything like that. It's not, because we have people in power acting like it's this chronic disease that's spreading across the land and the world, and that's this menace to society. No, it's not. No, it's not. Tell that to the indigenous communities out there. Tell that to the native or aboriginal communities out there that have never subscribed to this Western binary dual, flip side of a coin, yin and yang, male, female kind of dichotomy. We are here to explore those nuances and to not necessarily destroy that construct, because it can be relevant and there are people who live in that, and that's valid. But it's also valid to step outside of that and be who you are and come into your own. That's just as valid. In any case, we do have a trans character coming up. I'm so excited for you guys to meet them. We have an ace character as well. For those that don't know what ace means, asexual, that's short for asexual, or aspect, the asexual spectrum. We have someone from that community as well coming in volume 2. I'm so excited for you guys to meet her as well. Now, zooming out a little bit though, back to volume 1, because I just started talking about volume 2 and beyond. But I know you guys are going to really love and what we have in store for you guys, and the stories we're going to tell and the perspectives that we're going to share. We really have something awesome in the works when it comes to the T of the LGBTQIA plus, or the A also as well, because that's oftentimes overlooked, and that's oftentimes forgotten, and that's oftentimes shrugged off or swept under the rug. Or anyway, I don't know how many so many synonyms I can throw at you guys. You guys understand what I'm saying. Back to volume 1. We have let's just say there are going to be some of the original 6 that might surprise you as far as which way they lean, what they're interested in, who they're interested in, that I can't share too much more on right now. I know the answer. If you guys were to ask me, okay, Blaze, Glaze, Ambassador, Shaylock, where do they stand? I know where they stand. These are things that we can explore over time. So don't make any assumptions. Don't think, oh, they're straight. No. Don't assume anything. So let's see these stories unfold. But it's also so important. It's not just the stories that we share. It's who is telling these stories. Because we have a myriad of people in the LGBTQIA plus community right here in our ranks, in our community, in our group, in our cooperative, because after all, we are a cooperative. Volition Comics Cooperative LLC is our legal business name. That's what we're incorporated under. So, in any case, we live these stories. We live these experiences. Now, I'm not going to out those who don't want to be outed, and I don't want to speak for those who don't want to speak for themselves. So anytime I have a guest on, and I have had guests on before, I will have guests on again. If they would like to share more about their experience, they're absolutely free to do so. The floor is theirs to do so. If it's in Pride Month or anytime, because every day is a great day to be proud to be who you are. I want to be very, 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 very clear about that. But beyond the sexuality / gender identity conversation, and that is very relevant. I wanted to start with that. That's so important. I wanted to start with that because it's Pride Month after all. But beyond that, listen, I did touch on this in episode 1. As far as, hey, in a world, well, if you are going to have a world be attacked by a celestial threat, or if you're going to have even domestic forces rise up, like terror attacks or, fill in the blank, whatever fantastical villains you might possibly come up with, you're not going to have its heroes be from just one country, one city. You're going to have them from all over. In episode 1, I mentioned that the Avengers, for instance, look, just Go down the list, right? I'm not going to go down that list again, but I'm sure when you think about it, if you're familiar with those characters and you think about it and it clicks one by one, how many of them are from New York City? Come on, give me a break. as of as of volume 1, I have 6 heroes from 6 countries slash 6 continents. All right. Wingspan from Canada, Shadelock from Kenya, Cosmo from Cambodia, Blaze from the Netherlands, Glaze from Bolivia, Ambassador from New Zealand. These are my original 6. This is my core. These are my goats, my founders, so to speak, the originals. Beyond that, Volume 2, we're going to branch out more into South America. We're going to branch out more in Asia. We're going to branch out more in Africa. We're going to branch out basically every continent. But I wanted to start with those first, as far as the black and brown experience. Listen, I'm someone who is black. I'm biracial. And it's been a walk. It's been a journey for me. Because obviously I was born and raised in Germany, so my experience was, for a long time, that of a white man. But coming to the States, experiencing certain things, mingling with certain people, having, certain relationships, being put into situations, and just being an adult, right? And learning the adult life and being educated, not just in the classroom, because honestly, I learned more outside the classroom than I ever did in school, to be honest with you, through my own research and my own experience. That's something that I really want to highlight. I care a great deal about the black and brown experience because that's something that I've sought in myself. And now in my characters, I seek to raise that up. I seek to bring on more black and brown voices in our storytellers and our artists so that we can share these experiences authentically. And so we have a solid foundation to stand on. But beyond that, as you can tell, we do care a great deal about diversity, but it's not this afterthought, because in DC and Marvel and, the other companies out there and the other storytellers out there and the other franchises out there and the other universes out there, you are going to see diversity out there. You are, but it's an afterthought. It's not part of the original design, because like when these properties first came out, what did they look like? Who were the ones telling these stories? Granted, oftentimes, depending on how far it goes, the 50s, the 40s, the 30s even, it's a reflection of the time. Sure. And the progress that had been made up to that point, or lack thereof. Now, in the year of the Lord 2025, we have made a lot of progress since then. But a lot of that progress is also being rolled back. A lot of that work, that important work that has been done, is in danger. Is being threatened, is being undone. So this honestly is the right time for Volition Comics to take that stand and to bring these stories to the forefront and lift them up, because hey, we have tried to get off the ground a number of times over these last few years. And actually, I think I forgot to mention that in episode 1, I'm not sure, but Volition Comics was originally called Ultralight, actually, when we first came up with it. But then, there was a company in Florida that had the same name, basically, and we decided, we can't risk getting sued someday, so let's go with another name. We brainstormed and came up with Volition Comics and whatnot. But that's beside the point. That's just some lore for you guys that didn't know. But we have tried to take off a number of times, and it was never the right time. This is the time. This is the time. Just look at what's going on out there. The conversations that are being had, the laws are getting passed, the directives that are decreed. This is that time. This is that time. And another story that I want to tell, another perspective I want to lift up, is of those who deal with disabilities And those can look in a myriad of different ways. They can be visible, they can be invisible, they can be physical, they can be mental. They can be life-threatening, they can be mild. And a lot of people live perfectly normal, in quotes, because what is normal anyway, but I guess average, what you come to expect, lives. Then there are those that it sincerely impairs their ability to function and to lead, again, quote, normal lives. What does this look like when you have superpowers? What does this look like when there's a supervillain or an alien army or a horde of zombies or magical shapeshifters or wizards or whatever? When they strike, when they attack, when they hold hostage all that you hold dear, and you have the classic good versus evil, hero versus villain, extended monologue, and evil laugh, cartoonish mustache twirling, all that stuff, all those tropes. When that unfolds, what does this look like to those who have cerebral palsy, for instance? What does that look like to those, for instance, who have Down syndrome? What does that look like to those, for instance, who have who are autistic? And I want to be careful with that, because when you say, person, okay, like a person with autism, it implies, hey, this is a problem. No, it doesn't have to be. It's a spectrum. There's a wide range of experience. So you don't say person with autism. You say autistic person. And also, we don't say disabled people because that identifies them as that. They are more than that. That is why we say a person with disability. It's so clear to make that distinction. So important to change the language that we use to talk about these things. I want to really lift that up to you guys, to consider that, to reflect on that, to incorporate that. And I also want you guys to know that this is something that I did incorporate in the writing I've done so far and the writing that I continue to do. Now, as far as disabilities, hey, you are going to see some of those reflected out there in mainstream superhero media. For instance, Daredevil is blind. Professor X is paralyzed and uses a wheelchair. Yes, you are going to see these things, right? But it's very limited, though, because of the disabilities that I just mentioned. Do you see those? Do you see epilepsy and dyslexia and that kind of stuff? Now, let's just say that this is something that's been cooking up for a long time. Yeah, this is something that's been cooking up for a long time. It's been in the pipeline for a long time. I've been writing ever since I was 9 or 10 or so. I'm 25 now. What I'm talking about right now, it goes back to when I was 11. Granted, it didn't exactly look that way at the time. It's gone through a lot of changes since then. But soon, very soon, we will be ready to share that with you all. I cannot wait. I'm so excited to get this project out there, to get this off the ground. You are going to see in the next month or two, probably, we will start teasing this on our social media. But for right now, that's as much as I will say about that project. But since we're on the topic of diversity, I just wanted to let you guys know how important this is to us, and to me especially. As the head writer for most of our properties, with our flagship property, of course, being The Keepers, I can speak for those projects. So as their writer, as its writer, when we're talking specifically about The Keepers, and also this next project I have coming up, take it from me, I do not mince words. I do not back down from a fight. I do not make any apologies when there are no apologies to be made. Because, and actually, I'm going to head to our website for just a moment so I can get the quote right. But recently, we did have this conversation about diversity in our Volition Comics Discord for those of us who are co-owners and freelancers. And I came up with a mission statement because this is a conversation that we've had. And we wanted you guys to know from our mouths where we stand and what promise we make. So I compiled this mission statement and everyone approved of it. Everyone liked it. Everyone felt comfortable putting it out there. So the mission statement of Volition Comics reads as follows, quote, Volition Comics is committed to telling the stories, even if fantastical or about the impossible, from all walks of life, of, by, and for humans, end quote. I'm going to say that one more time, actually. Volition Comics is committed, I tell you, to telling the stories, even if fantastical or about the impossible, from all walks of life, of, by, and for humans. I want you guys to reflect on this very carefully. I want you guys to hear what it is that I'm saying. And I know I'm hammering this in this episode. This is the theme of this episode. This is the purpose of this episode. And I challenge you, if this conversation makes you at all uncomfortable, then maybe do you have to examine yourself and where you're coming from and your prejudices and your biases and your privilege? Because we are here to tell stories. To tell stories. We're not here to propagate the narratives or the propaganda or the cookie cutter playing it safe, in quotes, because ultimately it's not really safe to beat around the bush, right? But we're not here to propagate those narratives or perpetuate those privileges or speak to a very select audience simply so we can uphold certain pre-existing structures in our civilization, in our society. And actually, when I say pre-existing, I mean as far as pre-existing to us living. Pre-existing to us living. And the generation before us and the generation before that. Because ultimately, these structures have not been around since the dawn of time. Ultimately, these structures have not been around since the dawn of humankind. Ultimately, these structures are very artificial. And they are lies. And we are here to correct those lies. So to those of you who this makes uncomfortable, I challenge you, I defy you, in fact, to show us where we're wrong and where we have been led astray. Because, yeah, and no apologies necessary. And actually, while I am on our website, I'm also going to go ahead and read our DEI commitment statement. Quote, we are nothing without the people whose stories we tell and the experiences we lift up. Accordingly, Volition Comics is committed to practices that foster diversity, equity, and inclusion in all stages of the creation and publication process. We desire for anyone from any walk of life to feel like they are at home in our world. This is not possible without a workspace free from discrimination on the basis of sex, gender identity, sexual orientation, race, ethnicity, nationality, disability, veteran status, age, religion, or any characteristic as prescribed by law. And I will say that last part, okay, end quote at the law prescribed by law, end quote. My bad. But we can't rely on the law. We have to rely on basic common decency, because a number of these things are getting erased in the legal books and in the history books too. So we are here to stand up. This is what humanity is like. We're not backing down from that. On that note, okay, so we've talked about disability. We've talked about the LGBTQIA plus community, sexuality and gender identity. We've talked about national origin, and geography. I mean, beyond that, though, as far as professions, I mean, hey, Poppy Bouchard, Wingspan, she's a barista. Just, her day job is working at a coffee shop. She's also a writer, though. That's where her heart lies. I identify with that. That's kind of a self-insert, to be honest with you, because that's me. I'm a writer. I mean, I haven't worked at coffee shops, but I've worked at sandwich shops. I've worked retail. I've worked food service and clerical, warehouse, factories, etc., stuff like that. So it's not a carbon copy, but it's the same spirit. And I imagine, hey, you don't have to be a writer to be able to relate to that, because you could be a musician, you could be a visual artist, you could be an actor or an actress, a sculptor, an architect, anything. And that is something that you can relate to, as far as, hey, you have to have some kind of job that pays the bills, right? But beyond that, maybe not everyone, but a lot of us have dreams and desire to share those dreams and those visions and those ideas and those worlds and those characters and those tunes and those songs and those words and those poems and those melodies and yeah, we desire to share that because that's an expression of self. And we struggle. We have writer's block or artist's block or musician's block or whatever you want to call it in your situation, but Poppy's been there. She is still there when we meet her. Cosmo Makarasun from Cambodia. He's a monk. I don't know how many monks are are reading our comic books or are listening to this podcast right now. But hey, how many of us, we don't have to be monks necessarily to be able to relate to his experience, as far as, and we don't even have to be Buddhist. We could be, as I am, Catholic, we could be Protestant, we could be Orthodox, we could be not even Christian, we could be a Jew or a Muslim, we could be Hindu, another Indian religion. We could even be atheists or agnostics, as far as that desire for more. That desire to that yearning for something more, something higher, something that is not of this world, some kind of eternal truth, or some kind of spiritual anchor that allows you to let go of the finiteness of the world. Because no matter what we believe, all of this on earth is temporary. So the main thing that we can do is live good lives as best as we know how, and help each other do the same, and love each other. So in that sense, I think what Makara is dealing with, as far as his journey to becoming Cosmo and his experience as Cosmo and the duties he performs as a superhero, I think, hey, I mean, he can shapeshift and has telekinesis and telepathy and all that kind of crazy stuff, but deep down, I think we can all relate to what he's going through, and I think a lot of us yearn for kind of that serenity and that tranquil quality that he has, as far as It doesn't matter what's happening around me, but I'm gonna keep a level head. Now we have Blaze, Vesselskirl from the Netherlands. He was a fireman. We have Elodia Robles. Also, pardon my German accent anytime I try to roll an R. My German accent doesn't come out when I speak English, but it always comes out when I try to speak another European language, funnily enough, like French or Spanish or Italian. Like that's when it comes out. Elodia Robles. Yeah, the German R is in the back of our throats. It's not rolled or trilled in that sense. Anyway, Elodia Glaze from Bolivia. She's an Antarctic scientist. That, I think, those two experiences are valid too, because and that also further demonstrates our diversity, not just in where they're from geographically or what they believe religiously or their sexualities or whatever, but what makes them them and their passions and kind of their psychologies, right? Because Blaze, as a fireman, former fireman, he knows all about service, acts of service. Before he ever got powers, he was a hero. Maybe even a bigger hero then, because he didn't have powers when he put his life on the line in that burning building that left him comatose before he awoke with powers. The whole story there, you guys will have to read the tale of Blaze and Glaze to get to how he got powers. But I think we all strive to be a hero in our own way. Powers, no powers. To be fair, none of us have powers. At least I don't think so. If any of you have superpowers, hop in the comment section below. Let me know what you guys have, and I would love to see what you guys could do. That'd be awesome. That'd be so awesome. But no, seriously. Joking aside, no, seriously. I think we all have it in us to be a hero, powers or no powers. Whether it's as a fireman or a doctor, or if it's something that we do as a career or even something that we do as just bystanders. We happen to see something and we jump in and we go for it and we help that person in need. Those at soup kitchens or homeless shelters or animal shelters or et cetera, et cetera. Those are heroes too. Arguably even bigger. And in the case of Elodia, as a scientist, she yearns for knowledge. She yearns to learn and to know about this. Talk about fantastical. Our Earth is fantastical the way it is. The beauty in it, in the natural environment, whether it's tundras or deserts, whether it's frosty or whether it's toasty, whether it's a rainforest or whether it's the frigid cold of Antarctica, whether it's our mighty rivers or our vast oceans, our mountain ranges or our valleys. Our Earth is so beautiful, and we all can do more to preserve it, to keep it, to shepherd it, to protect it, to love it, to honor it, because this is our home. This is our only world. Maybe someday we'll colonize Mars or Venus or even other solar systems or galaxies, but we need to honor where we come from. This is our home. So so Elodia speaks to that. I wanted to shepherd it and protect it and learn about it and share that with people. We have Chosiku Otieno from Kenya, Shaylock. She doesn't have any powers, but she has the strongest will of them all. She really does. Because she fights for those who can't fight for themselves. Whether you're getting mugged or abducted or robbed or assaulted or fill in the blank, whatever. On the street level, who can you count on the street level in the nitty-gritty, in the trenches of life, you can trust Shadelock. And speaking of what I talked about a minute ago, how anyone can be a hero, and how Blaze speaks to that, that speaks to Chausiku as well. Because, whether it's a petty thief or it's a celestial titan the size of a mountain. And if you want to know more about that, you got to read Volume 1. You got to read United Front to learn more about that. But she will always show up, always without fail, and give it her all. And we have Sophia Dickinson from New Zealand, ambassador, and how she can speak all languages. All earthly languages, all extraterrestrial languages, all languages. Any language you could ever think of, she can speak and understand and translate and converse in. That's heroic too. That's heroic too. And I think that speaks to also, like Glaze, that pursuit of knowledge, because she is hungry for knowledge. She wants to learn more. And I think, hey, I'm someone who has an affinity for learning languages. I love linguistics and learning more about that. And as far as an interest in different cultures, I always want to maintain that contact. And hey, I'm someone who has traveled a lot. I did talk about that in episode 1. I've traveled a whole bunch. I will continue to travel a whole bunch as best as I can for the rest of my life. And I always love sharing those experiences with people. And she's that way too. And in the increasing interconnectedness of our world, we need interpreters, like diplomats, those that put their life on the line in war zones to translate and interpret. And hey, listen, in this age, this anti-immigrant sentiment being all around us, and how ordinary people living their lives or speaking Spanish or whatever in a grocery store, and then people treat them with such vitriol and they say, we're in America, you need to speak English. And then you see that viral video. There have been so many of those. People just get so heated. You've all seen those viral videos. I certainly have over the last number of years. But then you have those ordinary people stand up and interject and get between them and say, hey, back off. Because there's nothing wrong here going on. Hey, first of all, America has no official language. People can try to make it one, but it requires an act of Congress to actually make an official language in this country. And I mean, it's only official in the de facto sense. Like, sure, traditionally, most people, okay, cool, whatever. But even then, hey, we are a melting pot. But in the de jure sense, in the legal sense, we have no official language. If the President of the United States wanted to give the State of the Union in Arabic, he or she could. If the President of the United States wanted to decree a law, well, okay, not decree a law. If Congress wanted to pass a law and it's written in Farsi or Tamil or Tagalog or Uzbek or Korean or Swahili or any language, right? And the president wanted to sign it in that language, he certainly could. He or she or they certainly could. So I think it's heroic also to speak. Just speak in any language these days. Just be you. And Sophia would understand that better than anyone, because she seeks to understand. She seeks to make friendship. She seeks to level with you, no matter where you're from or what tongue you speak. So, I wanted to thank you all for joining me for yet another episode of Our Own Volition. Thursdays are our days for uploading those new episodes. I always try to stay a week ahead of release schedule so I don't have to scramble at the last minute. But thank you again for joining me. I will see you guys next week. This is Peyton, signing off.